Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is a one-on-one interview. I am joined by the Manchester United football correspondent for the Daily Mirror, David McDonnell. How are you doing?
I'm right, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Nice to see you here. Here we are underground at the, what's it called?
Allegiant
Arena, where Manchester United have just lost to Borussia Dortmund. But we're not going to be talking too much about that. We want to talk about transfers, about Manchester United's summer, a little bit on the ownership as well, perhaps, coming up too. So let's just start with transfers.
Yeah.
I think the big name at the minute is Rasmus Hojlund.
Yeah.
This deal has been sort of in the pipeline for a while, and it looks as though now we're at a point where a fee has been agreed, everything seems to be in place, we're just waiting for an official announcement. First of all, what do you make of this deal and the fee that's attached to it? Because it's a lot of money for a 20-year-old.
It's a huge amount of money for a 20-year-old who's not proven. I think he got 9 goals in Serie A last season for Atalanta, so you're not buying a Harry Kane, you're not buying a ready-made striker who's proven, who can come in and guarantee you 30 goals a season. You're buying potential. I think United, from our understanding, is that Atalanta wanted about £86 million, so they've driven the price down, as they have done in fairness with Mason Mount and with Andre Onana. But it's still an awful lot of money, as you say, Joe, for a 20-year-old who is inexperienced, but clearly Ten Hag has belief in him. He believes that he can develop him. We've seen in the year he's been at United how he can improve players. And there's a belief that Rasmus Hojlund has the attributes to become a world-class striker. And I think it's a departure, isn't it, from what Manchester United have been doing in terms of strikers in recent years. They've been buying more experienced strikers. You think of Ibrahimovic, you think of Cavani, and of course bringing back Cristiano Ronaldo. So you may have to go back to Martial, and of course that's not turned out
I suppose
great.
Lukaku was one who was seen as being bought in his prime, but he wasn't potential. He was meant to be the ready-made. Yeah, exactly.
So I think they're buying potential, and I think that's to be applauded by Manchester United, because, as I say, they've had this policy of buying strikers who are at the end or coming towards the end of their careers, or who are already proven. This is a striker that is going to, hopefully, for Manchester United, grow and grow. I think what we'll see maybe, if and when he joins, you may see Marcus Rashford playing through the middle while Hojlund gets settled, because I think it's a big ask to come in to the Premier League to Manchester United with all the expectation. And from what we understand, he's a guy or lad, young guy that doesn't feel pressure, is undaunted by it. But I still think, as we've seen with so many players in the past, it can be an overwhelming experience coming to Manchester United, and it can take time to adapt. So you may well see Rashford, Sancho, you might see different players, playing through the middle there until Hojlund finds his feet and can play there regularly. Yeah,
it's interesting that he said about his personality. I spoke to a Danish journalist a couple of months ago, and he was saying he has got this real sort of confidence, borderline kind of ego about him, which so many top players, especially top strikers, seem to have that, don't they? But just thinking about sort of United's approach for him, it's kind of been known for a while that he was the guy, and we all kind of hoped or thought that Kane might come back into the picture, but it has been a pretty targeted approach from United. What were there other targets available? Was he a second choice? Colin Moani was mentioned.
Colin Moani was. I think there were sort of fallback options, if you like. If Atalanta wouldn't budge on the price, United made it clear that they could walk away. They had other options. I think with Harry Kane, the price was what put United off. We all know that they've got a ceiling in terms of the financial fair play regulations, so they couldn't go above a net spend of, I think, 150 million.
Right.
Now, Kane, if Spurs are asking for 90, 100 million for him, then you've got to factor in his wages as well. He's asking for something like 30 million a year.
That's astonishing, by the way.
It's obscene, and it's just not financially viable for Manchester United. So they had to work within that framework. But, listen, no one knows how it's going to work out, but you can only go on Ten Hag's judgment. The other thing about Hojlund is that he's physically very strong as well, almost like Haaland-esque.
Massive, isn't he?
Huge. So he's not as quick as Haaland from what I've seen and from what the Danish journalists we speak to say. But he has got that presence in the box that United have lacked, really, haven't they? They've lacked an out-and-out number 9, a prolific goal scorer, who can play through the middle. So, I think it's a big signing. It is a gamble because of his age and inexperience, but one that, I guess everyone hopes pays off.
Obviously, you've reported and written about Manchester United for a long time. Has this summer had a different feeling to it in terms of the way United have targeted players? It's felt a lot less sort of name-driven, a lot less scattergun. It's had a pointed, if you fit the system, we'll try and get you, rather than, wow, this guy's available, let's get him in.
Do you
think,
say so?
You noticed that?
In the past, it's been scattergun, it's been less strategic, I think. As you say, Joe, when Ten Hag's made some tough decisions. He's been pretty ruthless, getting rid of Harry Maguire in terms of out the first team, giving the captaincy to Bruno Fernandes. I mean, tonight I thought was an even bigger slap in the face to Harry Maguire, that Scott McTominay got the captain's armband as well.
Wow,
so, he's not afraid to kind of put noses out of joint. But I think with the signings, he's gone in and he's realised, and with David De Gea as well, he's realised that he cannot play with his feet. And if I want to move this team forward in the modern way, you've seen it at Manchester City with Ederson, you've seen it at Liverpool with Alisson, we need a keeper who can play out from the back. And although Onana's only had 45 minutes against Real Madrid and tonight, already you can see, can't you?
It's clear, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a different shift in the style and the way they play. And I think that's really something if you're a Manchester United fan, to be really excited about. Because, he's calm on the ball, he's calm under pressure, he's got a great passing range. Yeah. So, to answer your question, I think, and with Mason Mount as well, he's got a player there who has probably signed as much for his work off the ball than on the ball. He loves to press, Mason Mount, he loves to, get in the face of opponents. He can play in a variety of positions. So I think, and with Hojlund as well, we talked about his attributes. I think you've got 3 signings there which will really elevate this team. And as you say, it's not about star names, it's not about selling shirts, it's not about big names. It's about improving the team. And I think if Eric Ten Hag and the club can get rid of some of the, I don't like to use the word dead wood, but some of the fringe players who aren't going to play, to raise funds to bring the club within the threshold of financial fair play, I think it'll be seen as a very good window. And also as well, I mean, I've been covering United for 21 years, 22 years. In recent seasons, there's been that, almost panic buy towards the end of the window.
Yeah. We saw it last season.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas this season, what will be 31st of July now?
Yeah.
They're in before the start of the season. I think Hojlund will be probably a few days now. So there's a real strategic and considered approach this summer, and I think that has to be applauded. So, but only time will tell. I think Onana, you can see, is going to be an upgrade on De Gea. He's a great servant, David De Gea, but his time had run its course at the club. Mount is proven, at Chelsea. He's won trophies there, but he has to prove himself. And the only one really, the only unknown is Hojlund. So, but I think that they're all good signings on their own merits.
Smooth Sack Summit is here, and Manscaped are sponsoring this video. Join 8 million other men who trust Manscaped, and with our code PADDOCKTOUR you can get 20% off and free shipping. Now, what is Manscaped? Manscaped is genuinely the leader in below the waist grooming for men. If you want your crown jewels to look ready for summer, ready for autumn, ready for any time, you need Manscaped. They've got everything covered to make sure that your boys are in pristine condition. Now, what have they got? A great question. Only the Performance Package 4.0, which includes all sorts of things, including the Lawnmower 4.0, which is their proprietary trimmer. It's got a multifunctional on-off switch so you can lock it so it's not going off in your bag. It's also got a light. It's also waterproof so you can do it in the shower. You can do it when no one's watching. You can do it in a cave if that's what you want. You can do it out at sea. Do you know what I mean? You can do it absolutely anywhere because Manscaped have thought of absolutely everything. There's also the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. There's also ball deodorant, ball toner to make sure the boys get fresh and stay fresh. There's also the Shed travel bag, and there's a free pair of boxer briefs in there as well when you buy that Performance Package 4.0. Again, use the code PADDOCKTOUR to get 20% off and free shipping at checkout. The link is in the description. Don't listen to me. Click on that link. Go and check them out. We use them. We love them. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring the show. Now back to it. Yeah, and it's interesting that you look at the top teams over the last 5 or 6 years. Look, Liverpool's signings, they spent big money on players like Alisson, but they haven't just gone out and bought the biggest name available. City certainly haven't done that up until maybe the Haaland signing. A lot of their players were not unknowns, but they weren't some of the big, we've gone for Di Maria's and Falcao's and Varane's and Ronaldo's, and they've gone for
the kind of Galactico
Salah's and players like that, Van Dijk's, people who are not necessarily world stars. And I think it's nice to see United finally doing a bit of that. Just on sort of further signings and further transfers, Amrabat is another name that's been mentioned. Sofyan Amrabat. The Moroccan midfielder, plays for Fiorentina, of course. What's your understanding of that situation? Because, see, I was speaking to Jamie Jackson about this last week, and it seems like the British press are sort of a lot cooler on this than we're seeing out of Italy, which is almost like the deal is done, we're just waiting for the confirmation, and that doesn't seem to be what you're hearing, does it?
I think the Italian press, I mean, a lot of that's getting fueled by the club as well. I think the club are keen to sell, so I think we have to bear that in mind as well. The club, a lot of Serie A clubs need to sell before they can buy, so there's a vested interest for them in driving a market for Amrabat. I know for a fact United have spoken to his people. I know they've made advances there. But I also understand that the 3 signings, they're unlikely to do any more business unless they can raise enough money with the sale of players. If they can get money from Maguire, if they can get rid of Fred, McTominay at the right prices. If there's a surplus of money left over, I mean, if they were to get rid of Fred and McTominay, they'd have to buy another midfielder.
Yeah, of course.
And Amrabat would fit the bill. I think the price quoted is about 35 million.
I think so maybe slightly less than that is what we've been seeing. Yeah,
I saw him in the World Cup in Qatar, but I mean, everyone saw him. But seeing him firsthand, he's got such a great engine. You know, he's everywhere, and he's the kind of player that would, I think, thrive at Manchester United. He gives you lots of different options. So he's certainly one option. But I think that any deal for him is dependent upon getting enough players out the door and getting enough money in to be able to spend again, because I think from the soundings we've heard, 3 signings is at the moment they don't plan to do any more business, Manchester United, unless an opportunity presents itself. Okay.
Is there any other names that you've mentioned? Obviously, Amrabat's one that, like you said, we might have to sell first, but there have been some contact there. Is there any other players that United have made contact with that we're not so aware of?
Not off the top of my head. I think the striker was always the priority.
Right.
You know, I mean, Colomani was obviously the other one. Kudos at Ajax was another option up front. But I think now they've got Hojlund, now they've got Onana, and they have Mount. I think those are the 3 signings that Erik ten Hag wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're looking at them making any fullback signings. I don't think, central defence, I don't think they need signings. Midfield is the only one. I think Amrabat's the one. If they have the budget to do it, I think a deal could be done there.
Okay. And also on the ownership.
Yeah.
Like
dragging on, isn't it?
To say the least.
for us as well.
We speak to journalists, we speak to people at the club, we speak to no one seems to know what's going on. And the longer time goes on, the last sort of update we heard was this 5th or 6th bid from Sheikh Jassim. We don't seem to have heard any updates since then. And the longer time goes on, the more we're hearing, well, we never promised we'd sell. Do you think that the potential sale's getting further away?
I do, because I think the longer it goes on, I know that's not what fans want to hear.
Of course it's not, no.
But I do. I mean, I think people have to remember that when the Glazers announced this strategic review back in November, it was. I think the main thrust of it was trying to get new investment into the club. There were options. I think Rain Group were the group handling the sale. Were briefing that it was a full sale, possibly partial sale, or just investment. I think the longer it goes on, I think the less likely we are to see the back of the Glazers. And that's, of course, not what the fans want. I mean, they want a full sale. I understand the concerns of fans and they want a clean break. But there does seem to be this impasse, I think in particular with the Glazer family. There's a resistance, a division rather, between members of the family over what to do. I think that's what's held it up as well. That there's no consensus with the family about whether they want to do a complete sale or they want to, retain an interest.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, and the Jim Ratcliffe option, the Glazers would remain.
They get that, don't
control.
they? Yeah.
So the only option for a full sale and the Glazers leaving the club is obviously Sheikh Jassim's. And I mean, look, we're as much in the dark as others because the club aren't briefing because they can't. There's no one's getting any steers from the Glazers at all.
No.
The Rain Group, are being pretty tight-lipped about it. Obviously Sheikh Jassim's people, are desperate to get the sale done.
Yeah.
So they're happy to brief, and Jim Ratcliffe's people as well. But we do seem to reach this impasse where nothing's happening. And I think the longer that goes on, sadly, I think the less likely the Glazers are to sell up.
It's unbelievable, and everyone wants clarity on this situation. Everyone wants to know what's going on. Not least this man walking past right here, Erik ten Hag, who's going into another season, not knowing who the owners are going to be at the end of that season, not knowing what the budget.
I think he's been very diplomatic. We've asked him about it, and it's a difficult position for him to be in because he has to kind of, placate the owners, the current owners, because they're his employers, they're his bosses. But also, I think he wants a resolution to it as quickly as possible. Yeah. And you can understand why. He wants to know where he stands, what funds he's got to spend going forward, what the future of the club's going to look like, what the makeup of the club is going to be, because there could be significant changes if it is a full sale and Sheikh Jassim comes in. It could be a whole structural change of the club. So it's been tough for Ten Hag, but I think he's handled it with pretty well. He
tends to handle everything well, doesn't he? He keeps everything close to his chest, and I think that's seen him well so far, hasn't it? You're not going to get anything out of him, so he can sort of do what he wants within that, can't he? So I mean, thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure.
And like you said, we just want clarity. We want to know what's going on, and it doesn't seem like we're going to get it anytime soon. But like you said, United are about to sign Rasmus Hojlund, maybe another one after that, depending on outgoings. Thank you very much for coming on. This has been a one-on-one interview with David McDonnell from the Daily Mirror. Thank you very much for joining us. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. We'll bring you all the latest news as soon as it happens. Hit the notification bell as well, because when we go live, when a video comes out, you will see it first. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again for coming on. And we'll see you in a bit.